sehe ich darin, wir reden hier über etwas, worüber wir uns hier in diesem Saal einig sind, was aber in der alltäglichen Praxis meiner Arbeit oft sehr schwer feststellbar ist. Das heißt, ich habe es ja auch mit tatsächlichen Misshandlungen, ich habe es ja auch mit tatsächlichem sexuellen Missbrauch etc. zu tun und ich tue mich in der Praxis dann oft schwer, eine PAS-Symptomatik wo zu erkennen, wo möglicherweise auch ein realer Hintergrund da sein könnte für die Ablehnung zum Beispiel eines Elternteils oder wo eben nicht nur das Kind entfremdet wird aufgrund von Problemen, die meinetwegen die Mutter oder der Vater damit hat. Nun haben Sie gesagt, diese Patienten, die Sie haben, die kommen ja zu Ihnen in einem privaten Patienten-Arzt-Verhältnis. Das heißt, sie unterliegen ja der Schweigepflicht. Wie konkret könnte denn eine gegenseitige Information zwischen Ihnen und dem Jugendamt, für die Sie ja eine Schweigepflichtentbindung bräuchten, und wo Sie ja dann das, was Sie hier sehen an PAS, auch dem Patienten gegenüber offenlegen müssten, damit Sie ihm die Schweigepflichtentbindung fürs Jugendamt begründen. Wie könnte ich mir zum Beispiel in dem letzten von Ihnen genannten Fall das denn konkret vorstellen? Ist da das Jugendamt auf Sie zugekommen? Das heißt, hatten die Information, dass das Kind bei Ihnen in Behandlung war? Das ist ja nichts, was
darf ich Sie unterbrechen? Das war eine...
Aber die Frage war, ob eben das PAS zu sehr als Störung des Kindes gesehen wird und wir deswegen auch nicht weiterkommen.
Dankeschön.
Im Kinder- und Jugendpsychiatrischen Kontext ist es unmöglich, ein Kind alleine zu behandeln. Wir haben immer Erwachsene dabei in irgendeiner Form und insofern ist das integriert in unsere Arbeit. Es geht gar nicht anders. Es geht gar nicht anders.
Wir haben jetzt noch einen Fragenden und dann haben wir die Entgegnung eines Richters auf diesen richterlichen Einwand, den ich weitergegeben habe. Kannst du es kurz machen?
Ja, ein bisschen Raum sollten wir ja haben, das wird ja gar nicht diskutiert. Eine Anmerkung letztlich. Man mag es kaum glauben, nach diesen bewegenden, finde ich, und hoch nachdenklich stimmenden Ausführungen, wo man denkt, das müssen die Köpfe aller, die mit dieser Problematik befasst sind, sollte nicht übersehen werden. Die Berufsgruppe, die dem Paas am stärksten Widerstand im Lande leistet, das ist ihre. Das muss man wissen. Es ist also nicht so, dass man denkt, such dir mal schnell, nachdem wir Sie gehört haben, den nächsten Kinder- und Jugendpsychiater und dann geht alles seinen relativ guten Verlauf. So ist es nicht. Zweitens, das darf ja schon nachdenklich stimmen, wenn eine engagierte Fachfrau es einen Erfolg nennt, dass sie sich erklären kann, warum sie keinen Erfolg hat. Das geht in dieselbe Richtung wie das, was gestern den großen Widerstand hervorgeht. Also ich habe noch nie Erfolg gehabt bei Paas, und damit meine ich natürlich diese Extremfälle. Dann am Widerstand leistenden, am instrumentalisierten Kind, am Paaskind vorbeikommen. Ich möchte in dem Zusammenhang hier die Kolleginnen und Kollegen, die wissenschaftlich an der Paarproblematik interessiert sind, ansprechen. Sprechen Sie mich gleich an. Ich denke, es ist so wichtig, dass wir uns bündeln und dass wir hier den Weg bereiten für die Sensibilisierung der Praktiker, der Gerichte und Jugendämter und was da alles behördlich zu tun hat mit den Trennungsfamilien. Die haben die praktische Arbeit, die können sie aber nur umso besser leisten, je fundierter wir ihnen zuliefern, was hinter dem Ganzen steht. Und eine letzte Anmerkung möchte ich sagen, die ist hier ein paar Mal schon angesprochen worden. Was wird aus den Kindern? Sie haben ja auch noch mal einen Hinweis gegeben. Ich habe eine Paarstudie im Moment am Laufen. Ich bin Hochschullehrer an der Uni Bielefeld im Rahmen einer Examens aus. Die nach 10, 15 Jahren haben wir die groß gewordenen Paaskinder in derselben Betroffenheit, in derselben Empörung, in derselben Aggressivität und Anklage und Abwertung finden wir sie wieder, wie damals, als sie 10-jährige Kinder waren. Und auch das kann für mich, so schließt sich der Kreis, nur bedeuten, lasst uns den Anfängen wehren, denn wenn es dann einmal im Grunde gefallen ist, haben wir kaum noch eine Chance.
Ambivalenz, dass die Komplexität von sozialen und emotionalen Beziehungsgeschehen mir in diesem Konzept ein Stück auf der Strecke zu bleiben scheint, macht mir ein bisschen Angst, dass Jahrzehnte an Entwicklung unserer Fähigkeit, Menschen und zwischenmenschliche Prozesse zu verstehen, auch nicht gleich zu bewerten, hier möglicherweise verloren geht. Und dann fürchte ich, machen wir statt einen Weg einen Schritt nach vorne, unter Umständen sogar einen Schritt zurück.
I suspect that many of you are leaving this conference with a certain amount of gratitude, having learned useful things and gotten confirmation of your ideas, learned things from others. One can't quantify gratitude, but I believe that if you could quantify all this gratitude of all the people that attended this conference, it wouldn't measure up to the amount that I have as a result of this conference as I sit here. It hasn't been an easy path, and it continues to be a difficult one because of all the criticism that is heaped upon me, the slander, the libel, the garbage, the lies, the misrepresentations, the things that are spread around the internet that I'm confronted with in just about every single case that I testify in. And if you're human, you must have a certain amount of doubt at times. You know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe some of my ideas are out in left field. But as I sit and look at you, it gives me confirmation that I must be doing something right, and that whatever errors I am making, there's a lot of validity to my work, and it gives me the courage to continue going and doing what I'm doing. There are many things I could say about many of the things that the speakers have said, and we have a time limitation. I'd like to focus on one aspect, and that is the issue of psychotherapy, psychoanalysis, and its place in PAS. I am a psychotherapist, I'm a psychiatrist. I'm also a trained psychoanalyst. I also have been on the faculty of a psychoanalytic institute, and I was on the faculty until 1983, when I left because of grave disagreements with the emphasis on the speculations, especially about things on the subject, but books I've written on the subjects. I've written a book called Psychotherapy with Children of Divorce. PAS is not a situation where psychotherapy should be your first line of approach or even consideration. You cannot treat a PAS child while that child is living almost entirely or exclusively in the home of the programming parent. I don't care what psychotherapeutic school you belong to, what psychotherapeutic approach you believe in, it ain't gonna work. It's like taking a child out of a cult who's being programmed to hate his or her loving family once or twice a week, whether you want to use analytic therapy, psychodynamic therapy, cognitive behavior therapy, rational emotional therapy, or any other kind of therapy invented by humanity. You can't possibly work against that programming process. Very friends, I've had colleagues, I've had those who work with me, but now I see an ever-expanding population of people who are interested in helping. I would like you, it's very important for me to collect cases in which the court has recognized PAS, not PA, but PAS. I have a list on my website, they're posted on my website, of now 72 from about 6 or 7 different countries. I want you to forward those to me. Remember, cases in which the judge has ruled that this is a PAS case, and this is by email address, Richard, R-I-C-H-A-R-D, Gard, G-A. We have many, but they're not in the most prestigious, the most rigorous journals. The more of those we get, the better for all people who have PAS. That's the #1 request of you. There is outside a list. I'd like to get your email addresses. I have a list of people. I call it my PAS network of people. I send them periodic update info.
To respond to that. First, let me say that someone's telephone is ringing. I hope it's not mine. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Did you turn it off for good? Haben Sie es ausgemacht?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to... Because by definition, the patients who we see are those who have problems severe enough to warrant treatment. So, for example, for many years, therapists, the only children who lived with their fathers after divorce that therapists saw in their offices were children who were having problems in school or at home. And therapists assumed that this meant that fathers were not capable of raising children or having custodial responsibilities. And it wasn't until studies conducted, some that I conducted and some that others conducted, that we learned that in the general population this was not true, that generally speaking, children could be raised by fathers and fathers could do just as good a job of it as mothers could. Was very upset about the prospect of going back to his father, and within 5 minutes of being with his father, he was hugging his father and telling him he loved him. Briefly, because it's somewhat of a digression, the research was conducted maybe 60 years ago, a number of studies that showed that children who were institutionalized, who suffered traumas, who were orphans, who were separated from their parents, developed many problems. And the research really helped us improve the kind of care children get in institutions. But very often that research has been misinterpreted to suggest that all the problems were due to the child being apart from the mother. What people don't realize is that those children were also apart from their fathers. And they were severely traumatized. What we were seeing were the effects of poor institutional practices and trauma. And contemporary attachment theory no longer believes that children have a need to only maintain a relationship with one parent. The consensus of opinion among current attachment theorists and researchers joins with the results of the empirical research by divorce researchers such as Mavis Hetherington that show that children do best when they have good relationships with both parents, when they have the opportunity to maintain those relationships after divorce, and when they are helped to support their love and affection for each parent. One more point I'd like to make, and then I'll make this brief. When you have a parent, let's suppose a father, who has a 5-year-old son, and the 5-year-old boy says, "I don't want to go see Mommy." And the father says, "I do think it would be good for the child to have a relationship with his mother, but I can't make him go." I think the judges who are hearing this need to ask themselves whether a man who is unable to make a 5-year-old child see his mother when there's no good reason for it is really capable of exercising the amount of authority over the child that a 5-year-old child needs. About this issue. I agree that it's very important that we not take a black and white approach to these things, that we understand that parent-child conflicts exist on a continuum, that what works for one family in treatment may not be the best treatment for another family, and that we try to individualize our responses to these situations. But I also want us to understand that for many, many years, physical and sexual abuse of children went unnoticed. There were many adults who did not want to believe that parents could do this to their children. Alice Miller has written very eloquently about these dynamics. Very often, the victim is blamed rather than the perpetrator of the problem. It's very hard to believe that a parent could try to poison the child's affections for the other parent, because we see how cruel that is to do to a child. And I want to make sure that we don't repeat the mistakes of the past where we are resistant to acknowledging the reality of the abuse, because of course that's the very first step in resolving any problems, is to be willing to face them, to see what they are, not to explain them away, and not to blame the victim. And I hope that meetings such as this will assist us in doing that. Thank you very much for your attention.
Ja, ich hoffe, das wird ein kurzer und kräftiger Appell an alle Anwesenden. Wir haben 2 Tage lang hier über tiefste Herzensangelegenheiten gesprochen. Und wir haben diese Herzensangelegenheiten von allen Seiten mit allen möglichen Facetten beleuchtet oder versucht, sie zu beleuchten. Und es sind hier tiefste Emotionen an die Oberfläche gekommen, immer wieder bei Betroffenen, bei weniger Betroffenen und auch bei Leuten, die nicht unmittelbar damit zu tun haben. Es ist also hier eine Kraft vorhanden gewesen, die ungeheuerlich war, für mich sehr stark zu empfinden war. Und mein Appell geht dahin, dass wir diese Kraft in eine Energie umwandeln mögen, die dazu beiträgt, dass wir in Zukunft den Spaltpilz, den wir ja allerorten sehen, vermeiden mögen, um zusammenzuführen. Um nicht zu spalten, zusammenzuführen, alle unsere wunderbaren fachlichen Qualitäten zu optimieren und zusammenzubringen. Das ist mein Wunsch.
I just want to add that I agree and that the need for love roots and critical thinking is what we have to stick to and develop.
Well, I've been in this arena now for 13 years. Every conference I go to, it's another year. And I was asked to say what this conference has brought to me and what we hope to bring to the conference, and I'll stick to that. And I have 3 minutes, I was told. First of all, what this conference has brought to me, I'm a European by birth and lived in Europe until I was 36, and then moved to North America, Canada, and the United States. And for me, this has been an odd experience. I feel as though I have one leg on one side of the Atlantic Ocean and the other leg on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. I have roots here, strong roots in Europe, and now I have built a life with a wonderful husband and wonderful people, others' gardens, and to work together, and that has just been such a blessing. Individually, I've met many people who have encouraged us at the Rachel Foundation in our work, and it's almost sometimes like I'm on the other side of a glass, that on one side is everybody saying, well, we have to analyze and research, and I totally endorse that. But on the other side, I'm saying, well, we're already moving into the solutions here. We have one model for one type of PAS, the severe cases. We have developed a transition model, which was first talked about by Dr. Gardner in his first book on PAS, and which was nothing new. I mean, Bruno Bettelheim had his home in the 40s and 50s, and what's his name again? Karl Kraus in America? Yes, and there's sort of therapeutic environments. What we are doing is nothing new, but we're applying it to this new social problem. And I do also, with respect, submit that the field of family reintegration needs to be looked upon as a separate and distinct field of professional competence. And it requires specialized training and specialized education. And this education can begin in the schools and in the universities, and begin with our right here in this conference. But let us not lose sight of the fact that there is right and wrong. And that doesn't mean to say we're all black and white. And it doesn't mean to say that we're fanatic on one side or another. But I just believe that if you go down the road of, well, everybody is right in some way or other, that we will get lost and confused. And the road of PAS is one in which we can get easily lost and easily confused with theoretical arguments and lose sight of the fact that the most basic, fundamental, and I come back to the 10 Commandments, the fourth commandment, honor your father and your mother, is the only commandment with a promise attached. It is the only commandment in which we are told, honor your father and your mother, so that it will go well with you. And we all share those values, no matter what culture we come from, whether we come from Afghanistan or Alabama. We share the same common human values.
Ihr könnt es nicht mehr von der Steuer bald absetzen, macht es also jetzt. Der nächste in der Reihe ist, und fast der letzte, aber der eigentlich allerwichtigste, oder einer der wichtigsten, ist Wilfried von Boch, der zusammen mit meiner anderen Nachbarin und noch zwei anderen Herren, die nicht hier oben sitzen, damit es nicht gar so überfüllt ist, diese wunderbare Konferenz, bei der, glaube ich, alle sehr viel gelernt haben und zumindest sehr viel erfahren haben, sich ausgedacht hat, und vor allen Dingen hat er sie organisiert, und das ist ein haariges, lausiges